This is Michael Popok for the new Legal AF YouTube channel. I want to get down to the molecular level of a new filing by Jack Smith in the DC election interference case, the special prosecutor. I did a broader view over the Midas Touch Network, but here on this channel, I want to get down to the down and dirty. This is a major development and startling news against Donald Trump that should keep him and his lawyers up at night. What am I talking about? Well, you might have heard here on the Midas Touch Network or on Legal AF YouTube that there was a filing by the special prosecutor at the request of the judge, at the demand of the judge, 180 pages of new evidence and information against Donald Trump to support the special prosecutor's new superseding indictment against Donald Trump so that it will survive the Supreme Court's decision in their immunity ruling back on July the 1st. So the special prosecutor had his work cut out for him. He had to make sure that the new allegations perfectly complied with what the Supreme Court was looking for. So it wasn't just the 180 pages, though. What Donald Trump should have worried about, and I'm sure now worries about, is an appendix, which is a giant compendium of evidence, witness statements, and grand jury statements that are also filed along with 180 pages. Now, I can't report to you about them because there's now a process going on that we're watching in real time where the judge is trying to determine how much of the 180 pages, how much of the appendix and the exhibits and the witness testimony and the witness's identity is going to be revealed to the public on a public docket. See, there's always a balancing test in criminal law. There's always a balancing act that has to take place. On the one hand, the rights of the defendant has to be protected to make sure he gets a fair and impartial trial, a presumption of innocence, and doesn't have scorn heaped on him as he tries to pick a fair and impartial jury into the future. On the other hand, prosecution has an ongoing investigation of Donald Trump. See, that's a little reported fact. This is not dead and in the can. This prosecution is ongoing. Every day, Donald Trump makes new evidence for the prosecution and their team to be used against him in a court of law. Donald Trump thinks it's funny to say things at rallies, to say things to drum up business or to sell coins or tchotchkes. But all he's doing is falling prey to the Department of Justice and building an additional case against him. Ongoing prosecution has not ended, which means witnesses continue to need to be protected. And that is the major takeaway from this new filing, which is ostensibly by title about how much of the appendix, thousands of pages of evidence, how much of the 180-page brief is going to be blacked out. We call it redacted in the legal world, with a black pen or electronic black marker, if you will, and how much is going to be revealed to the public at this moment in time on the public docket. Now, eventually, it'll all come out. Not the hypersensitive stuff, not the protection of witness identities, but it'll all come out over time. But right now, how much comes out? And that balancing act, that calibration, who does that? The judge, Judge Chutkan. But with whose assistance? The two parties. So we've now got what Jack Smith is proposing. And here's the takeaway. Here's the hot take. Here's the hottest of the hot take. Jack Smith has cooperating witnesses that we don't even know about that are going to be revealed for the first time in these filings against Donald Trump. That means people within Donald Trump's inner sanctum, inner circle at the highest levels who don't want it to be known or didn't want it to be known until today that they are cooperating against Donald Trump. We're going to see grand jury testimony, secret grand jury testimony that's never been revealed before in the filings, subject to being blacked out on the public docket for the time being. I could name on one hand the amount of people that could blow up Donald Trump's world in testifying against him, including Dan Scavino, the person who ran his social media account and was his closest advisor, and he was the one that would post mean tweets when Donald Trump didn't. That Dan Scavino, Mark Meadows and all of his text messages, the Twitter account that they obtained by search warrant and subpoena. But what the government is worried about and what comes up on almost every page of this new filing is protecting their witnesses. From whom? From Donald Trump, from the intimidation, from the hostility, from the invective, from the violent rhetoric, from the doxing, the MAGA going after these people as they continue to cooperate with the government. And how do I know that? Because it's in every page of this filing. In every page of this filing, there's a reference to witness intimidation and making sure that they don't stop cooperating with the government. This is an ongoing investigation. They're still developing new evidence. And to let Donald Trump, which he did at Mar-a-Lago, which he did in Georgia, which he did in Manhattan in the district attorney's office case against him, which he did in the New York Attorney General's case against him, go after witnesses, go after their families, threaten jurors, threaten grand jurors, threaten the families of judges and prosecutors and attorney generals. This is his MO. This is why he's been gagged in almost every state where he's been prosecuted. And those gag orders have been upheld at the highest levels, including through the United States Supreme Court. That is what Jack Smith and his team is worried about. And that's why throughout this, when you see on page 1 of the new motion, where they list, even on page 1, the motion, which is the 180-page brief, is supported by a variety of proof, some of which the government has designated as sensitive, such as grand jury testimony. That means secret grand jury testimony. Materials obtained through sealed search warrants, transcripts, and reports of witness interviews. That's the cooperating witness part. And materials obtained from other governmental entities that they don't want out. And why? Because they're worried, on page 3 particularly, it says in the proposed redacted appendix, that's their proposed blackout of the appendix, the government also proposes limited redactions, such as the defendant's tweets, where he's named people, that's Trump's tweets, where he's named people, targets an individual in the tweet because of their status as a potential witness or involvement in the underlying events, so they may be susceptible to threats or harassment, or may otherwise suffer a chilling effect on their trial testimony. That's what the government is worried about, and that's what they're telling the judge in this new filing, which of course Donald Trump is going to hate. On page 6 of the new motion, in the balancing test that they're required to do, the government says, as this court has previously concluded, the government has identified a significant risk to its interests. Witness intimidation could not only affect the willingness of any of the targeted individuals to participate in the law enforcement process and ongoing investigation, in other words, but also could chill the testimony of other potential witnesses in this case. That's on page 6. On page 7, they talk about redacting the name of witnesses to protect them. They do the same thing in the documents as well. And then what they asked the court to do in their filing, which just got filed, signed by Tom Wyndham, working with Jack Smith, a special counsel, after permitting the defense to be heard on the proposed redactions for the versions of the motion and appendix to be filed on the public docket, meaning what we get to see, the court should grant the government's motion. The government has conferred with defense counsel. That's the Trump side. The defense does not oppose the government's motion to file under seal in the first instance and reserves the right to raise objections to the government's proposed redacted versions for public docketing. What does all that mean? That means as of right now, Donald Trump is keeping his powder dry. He's not going to take a position as to what gets blacked out and what doesn't get blacked out. Now, ultimately, he may object to the entire process and say, whoa, you're not supposed to file any evidence now. No evidence goes before we pick a jury. No evidence goes to the public before there's voting. And he may try to take an appeal of how the judge continues to handle this issue. Now, to answer a question for those who don't practice law on a regular basis, the parties, the staff, the lawyers, the judges, the clerks, Trump's lawyers, prosecutors, and the like, all get to see the versions clean without any blackout. We're only talking about what the public gets to see on the public docket at the present time, subject to change over time as facts evolve and things end up in the public domain. So what is currently blacked out could one day be stripped of its blackout protection, because there's no need for the protection any longer, and then we will get more of that information and be able to report it to you here on Legal AF. But the major takeaway, and the reason I wanted to do this particular discrete hot take for our new Legal AF YouTube channel, is I wanted to focus on the threat of witness intimidation, the continuation of the prosecution's investigation against Donald Trump, to remind everybody that it is not done. There is still a development of evidence by the prosecution team. I am sure there is a group of 100 or so social media experts working for the Department of Justice on their staff. And all they're doing is scraping, getting all of the feeds from Donald Trump's rallies, social media events, speeches, interviews, stupid comments, hot mic moments, and scraping it and putting it together in a package in bite-sized little files for lawyers to evaluate as to whether they're going to use it against Donald Trump to prove their case. That is still going on. It's something that Donald Trump has never recognized, has never acknowledged. He's out of control. His lawyers can't control him. He's completely undisciplined as a client about what he's saying. His campaign staff can't control him. He says things out loud on the campaign trail that is hurting him and will hurt him in his various criminal cases. But he's unstoppable. He's just uncontrollable. He's unhinged, and he's sort of off the chain. And we got to continue to follow it. But the takeaway here, witness intimidation is on the mind of Jack Smith, and therefore I want it on your mind. And these are the things that Jack's going to do to protect his witnesses, his, as of right now, secret cooperating witnesses, as we get more information later in the month of October, as this document finally gets put on the public docket with all the blackout and all the black tape. We'll report on it. You're already here. So here's the great news. We have a new Legal AF YouTube channel in collaboration with the Midas Touch Network. We're not leaving the brothers. The brothers are a part of this. I'm going to be curating the new channel, Legal AF MTN. You know how MSNBC got named? Microsoft NBC? All right, we're Legal AF MTN. And that's how you find us. I'm still on the Midas Touch Network. The podcast, Legal AF, still on the Midas Touch Network. But here you can come for exclusive content you can't find anywhere else at the intersection of law and politics. Find out what 40 million people a month already know, that Legal AF is the home of analysis and commentary at the intersection of law and politics you can't find anywhere else. And I'll be bringing it to you, including new programming and new shows like Unprecedented, where I'll be doing a weekly show with a revolving door of anchors, including Dina Dahl, where we're going to break down and analyze everything Supreme Court right here as soon as the Supreme Court opens its term on the first Monday of October. So come back here for Unprecedented, but take the time, leave a comment, give a thumbs up. It helps with the algorithm, signals to them, the algorithmic gods, that you want this content, that you like this channel, and free subscribe as well, and help us get to 200,000 subscribers before Halloween. We're already halfway there, and we're only 10 days old. Help us with this build, because we are the channel that you've been waiting for, and we're building it with our bare hands with your support. So until my next hot take, until my next Legal AF, until my next exclusive content right here, many times a day on Legal AF MTN. This is Michael Popok, and I'm reporting. In collaboration with the Midas Touch Network, we just launched the Legal AF YouTube channel. Help us build this pro-democracy channel where I'll be curating the top stories at the intersection of law and politics. Go to YouTube now and free subscribe at Legal AF MTN. That's at Legal AF MTN.